serve these amazing students and clients as we work with outstanding educators, gifted professionals, valued staff, and talented leaders. We welcome you to this moment, to this tide in our affairs. Will you please bow your heads with me as we invoke the presence of God? Father God, we are grateful for the way in which your love has already blessed our lives. You have called us into being and given us this season in which to live. You have touched us by the caring concern of families, teachers, and friends. You have guided us when we were confused, forgiven us when we failed. You've comforted us when we were hurting. You've come to us when we were alone and strengthened us. When we were faltering, again and again, you loved us back into new life. O Christ, whose life is life itself, beat in our hearts, breathe it through our breaths, speak through our speech, until all we are and all we say and all we do declares that you are risen. Amen. This year's theme of Developing Championship Team has the theme of baseball. Mr. Kendall Carlisle from the Helen Keller School. Let's play ball. All right. Woo! Somebody's supposed to be throwing some. Thank you. Anybody say I throw it? Mr. Shall I go ahead? Go ahead. At this time, how blessed we are to have Malia Thibodeau, such a gifted young lady and a part of our family. Signing for her this morning, Tabitha Sperlings and Nicholas Moses from the Alabama School for the Blind. Ms. Malia Thibodeau comes from the Alabama School for the Blind.
By the door
What a special talent. And now we will have our welcome back by the chairman of the AIDB Board of Trustees, Mr. Clarence Haynes.
Thank you, Dr. Patterson, and especially thank you for those remarks and definitions of our employees out there, and I think the board shares that same sentiment. Bob Euchre, who is the announcer for the Milwaukee Bucks, he is one of my all-time favorites. Used to play for the Atlanta Braves, and later when Dr. Massia comes up here, if he talks more about those damn Yankees, more so than the Atlanta Braves, I want you to feel free to heckle him. Bob Euchre said one time that welcome is the best dish in the kitchen. It is certainly the warmest. And on behalf of the Board of Trustees, I extend the warmest welcome for you all back for this year. Thank you for the years past, and I know that this year will be better because of your drive. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No organization can go higher than its leadership. Someone once said, if you want to go fast, go by yourself. But if you want to go far, you have to learn to work with others. We are thankful that we have a leader who understands the empowerment of teamwork. Please receive now our president, Building a Field of Dreams at AIDB, Dr. John Massey.
Good morning. Morning. Can everybody hear me okay, or you're accessing the interpreter well? Good. Well, it is true I'm a Yankees fan, and I know that I'm in Braves territory, and I'm okay with that. I like Bob Euchre. But I have to ask, any Red Sox fans out there? You're fired. Just joking. No, you're fired. Not really. In the baseball movie, Field of Dreams, Kevin Costner's character built a baseball diamond in the middle of his Iowa cornfield, believing the Chicago White Sox would come to play. He heard it over and over from the depths of the cornfield. If you build it, they will come. If you build it, they will come. We have to hear it, believe it, do it. If we build it, they will come. Our services may be here on campus, in one of our regional centers, in a public school classroom, in a business, or in a home. For the thousands of children and adults we serve, we can build not only a field of dreams, but fields of reality. This year, we took the first steps toward building a new, expanded approach to outreach services. At mid-year, we hired 2 lead providers, outreach instructional services. In just a few short months, we've reached into 14 school systems and provided 40 services for new students we had not touched before. We took on this new initiative because there are children in our state who are deaf and blind who need what we have to offer: our experience, our knowledge, but in their own environment where they choose to live and work. We're making it to first base by introducing ourselves and what we have to offer. I can't wait for the home runs that are waiting to be made as this program grows. For our students and clients, there is much more to build and do at AIDB this year: confidence, careers, academic and athletic achievement, self-esteem, independence. How can our championship team help them become champions, turn their fields of dreams into reality? I love this quote by Mia Hamm, and I know she's not a baseball player, but she expresses this thought beautifully. I am a member of a team, and I rely on the team. I defer to it and sacrifice for it, because the team, not the individual, is the ultimate champion. AIDB is the world's most comprehensive organization of our kind, serving individuals of all ages who are deaf and/or blind. We say that over and over, but how many of us in this very room truly appreciate and grasp the full meaning of that statement? AIDB is an incredible organization made up of individual team members with diverse talents and abilities. Together, we build AIDB and the people we serve into true champions. As you know, I of course grew up a New York Yankees fan, so I appreciate these words of wisdom from Babe Ruth. The way a team plays as a whole determines its success. You may have the greatest bunch of individual stars in the world, but if they don't play together, the club won't be worth a dime. Babe Ruth was a Baseball Hall of Famer and set records that stand today as a power hitter. And early in his tenure, the Yankees played for their first World Series title. Babe Ruth always credited the team's effort, its ability to work together and staying focused on the championship goal. He said, "I touch all the bases when I hit a home run." So how can our AIDB team touch all the bases of our mission in such a diverse organization? We're not going to win every game, but we have to continue to reevaluate the game and our overall performance. What impact are we making on people's lives? Are we finishing the job? Are our students and clients achieving success and maintaining that success 5, 10, 20 years out? Were they successful long term? Careers and life situations change. Have we prepared our students and consumers for that change? As we begin a new year, a new season, I want to share some thoughts on how we as teachers, dorm staff, coaches, support staff, and administrators can ask ourselves, what do I bring to the team? The following list was written with teachers in mind, but it is applicable for all of us. Number 1, good teachers have a sense of purpose. We're not blessed with epic accomplishments every day. So work or teach with a sense of purpose. Staying focused on the big picture will keep us moving in the right direction. Number 2, have a positive attitude. Negative energy zaps creativity. Good teachers have an upbeat mood and energy that enables them to look past momentary setbacks to the end goal. Positivity breeds creativity. Number 3, good teachers expect their students to succeed. Students need someone to believe in them, and that's our job. We should create an environment where it's okay to fail and where it's safe to try again until the expectations we set for them are achieved. Number 4, be a risk taker. Your students need to try new things in the classroom, and they need to see that you believe in taking a chance on success or failure. There's a saying, those who go just a little too far are the ones who know how far they can go. I'm looking at the board now and saying, I promise we won't go too far. Number 5, be consistent. Consistency means that you do what you say you will do, and you don't change your rules based on your mood. Your students can rely on you. Number 6, be a mentor and seek out mentors for yourself. Mentors can be the voice that says, yes, you can, or maybe you should try this another way. We all need encouragement and new perspectives. Number 7, successful teachers welcome change. Classrooms are like an ever-evolving dynamic organism, and depending on the student roster or events of the day, you might have to change plans in order to keep them motivated. Change ignites the brain with excitement and adventure. Number 8, take time to explore. New technology and resources come on the market every day, and most likely our students are more tech adaptable and savvy than we old folks. Successful teachers are comfortable with the unknown. How comfortable are you with not having all the answers? Your students will benefit from your adventure and discovery. Good teachers, good employees never stop learning. Number 9, have a sense of humor. It reduces stress and frustration and gives people a chance to look at their circumstances from another point of view. Bring fun into the classroom. Don't be too serious. Some days, fun should be the goal. Your students need to see your human side. Humor can make the most mundane subject or task interesting. Number 10, successful teachers teach holistically. Learning does not happen in a vacuum. We know and practice this very well at AIDB. We do this better than most educators because we consider the needs of the whole person. And finally, successful teachers enjoy their work. It is easy to spot a teacher who loves their work. Their contagious energy just comes pouring out. When I walked around the room this morning before the start of this program, I interacted with hundreds of teachers that are just bursting, can't wait to get into the classroom, and we're so appreciative for you. We often talk about the calling folks who work at AIDB have for what they do here. It's because we love the game that we come back each year to meet new challenges and new students. It's the reason we work to improve our success rate, our batting average. It's because we're playing a serious game that has life-changing consequences for the thousands of infants, toddlers, children, adults, and seniors. It's a game that we can't afford to lose. I want to share just a few more team accomplishments and championship moments from last year. We had a successful year with the Alabama legislature, and I'm pleased to announce that our friends helped secure an increase of $1.25 million for fiscal year 2016. I want to especially thank the governor, Senators Marsh, McClendon, Pittman, and Whatley, and Representatives Poole, Hurst, Tuggle, and Fincher for their leadership and support, among others. This $50,465,189 appropriation moves us closer to our pre-budget cut days and will enable us to do some facility repairs, purchase a couple of buses, and focus a little on program expansion, particularly in our outreach efforts. We will be launching new financial software, AIDB-wide, through our business services area that will help us track and manage our resources and business functions more effectively and efficiently. Essentially, AIDB functions as multiple companies under one administration, and it has been challenging to find appropriate software that fits our unique situation. We look forward to moving ahead with this project. We've all observed with excitement the construction of the new music center on the campus of the Alabama School for the Blind. I am pleased to announce that our students will be making music in this brand new building as school begins next week. Okay? Need to take care of my interpreter. The state and foundation partnership has resulted in a brand new facility which combines band and music programs with all new furnishings, equipment, instruments, etc. The building will also house a state-of-the-art professional quality recording studio. Dedication is set for Friday, September 25th for the Gene Landreth Music Center. We are very proud of all of our student championship moments last year. ASB wrestlers won first place in the South Central Association of the Schools for the Blind SCASB tournament for the 13th consecutive time. Ryan King was voted most outstanding wrestler for the upper weight classes. The ASD boys Silent Warriors were the Mason-Dixon champions, and the Mason-Dixon all-tournament team included Cody Maddox, Anthony Scott, and Eddie Thomas. Eddie was also selected as the most valuable player. The Helen Keller School made their initial appearance into their Field of Dreams by competing with Oxford's recreational baseball group, a league of our own, for special needs children. At Gentry, championship moments resulted in 97 clients finding work at Publix, Sam's Club, AT&T Mobile, University of Alabama, Andalusia Regional Hospital, Goodwill Industries, TriStar Fitness, Knight Transportation, Maxwell Air Force Base, City of Gulf Shores, and a host of other schools, hospitals, and industry. 95 of these clients kept jobs after 90 days this year. I'm looking at my friend Curtis, and we appreciate the partnership of ADRS and Kayla and the whole ADRS team. The Alabama Industries for the Blind was honored by National Industries for the Blind with the 2014 Employment Growth Award, which recognizes efforts to increase employment retention, growth, and upward mobility for people who are blind. This is the result of great teamwork. I also want to commend AIB for its improved attendance rate. As we begin a new year, a new structured discovery program is set to be launched at the Birmingham Regional Center, offering consumers who are blind a different alternative and an experiential training model. The Birmingham Regional Center was also a major participant in the state's 25th anniversary celebration of the Americans with Disabilities Act, ADA. Great strides in awareness and accessibility have been made during the past quarter century due to the ADA. I'm glad that the AIDB regional staff took a leadership role in this celebration. We are working on a federal funding proposal that would allow us to work with the National Technical Institute for the Deaf and TID to expand science, technology, engineering, and math training in our state and increase the number of individuals who are deaf to pursue and complete college and career training. Last month, an unfortunate incident gave the AIDB family a different kind of challenge to come together as a team in support of one of our own. Matthew Fontanez, a legally blind employee at Alabama Industries for the Blind, was kidnapped, beaten, and robbed while walking from his apartment to catch a bus for work. He was left in the woods off Burney Station Road, bleeding and without his glasses. A Good Samaritan saw him and stopped to help. He called the police, waited with Matthew until help arrived, and later visited in the hospital. At the hospital, 8 or 10 AIDB staff showed up to help and support Matthew. Other staff assisted in the search for the 2 men who had assaulted him. This was a horrifying experience for Matthew, but he is going to be okay. He is fortunate to have the support of his family, his AIDB family, and a caring stranger. Once again, the AIDB family demonstrated that the true championship spirit comes in many forms. Sometimes championship teams are built from difficult circumstances. Sometimes championship teams are built from hard work, imagination, and determination. Sometimes championship teams are built from a moment or experience when you least expect it. I would like to share a personal baseball story about our son, Christopher. Some of you have heard this story, but I've decided to share it with the whole AIDB family because what Christopher taught me was so meaningful, and I hope his message has impact on you as well. Deborah Scott is not here today, but I was going to tell her she's not allowed to cry. She has heard this story, and she knows and loves Christopher, and this story is meaningful to her as well, too. And I won't be looking at my wife when I tell it. Before I begin with the story, I want you to think for a moment about this statement in relation to your job. The people we serve, your colleagues, and anyone in your life you tend to protect from disappointment and failure because you care about them and love them so much. Here's the statement. Protecting people from failure limits opportunities for success. I'll say it again. Protecting people from failure limits opportunities for success. Also, I want you to think about individuals who make up a championship team. Every team member cannot be a superstar, but every team member can bring a positive influence and attitude to the team with the goal of the whole team winning. When Christopher was 9 years old, he wanted to play kid pitch baseball. There he is. There's a picture of Christopher when he was probably about 7 or 8 in his baseball uniform up there right now. Before the age of 9, Little League is usually machine or coach pitch, but at about 9, the boys and girls are taught how to throw the ball. When Chris was 9, he had weak muscle tone and some other challenges. In our mind, he was not capable of pitching. We were sure he would fail, and we did not want him to get hurt or embarrassed. We didn't want him to feel disappointed in himself. Christopher, on the other hand, was dying to pitch. The coach told all of the players that they would have a chance to pitch, and Chris couldn't wait for his turn. I spoke to the coach, and we both decided that Chris shouldn't pitch because he might get hurt, the kids may laugh at him, and he surely would be humiliated by the experience. We decided that whenever he asked, we would tell him that it wasn't his turn yet, and before long, the season would be over, and we would spare him this negative experience. One Saturday morning, toward the end of the season, as we were going to the game, Chris, sitting in the back seat of the car, announced, "Daddy, I'm pitching today." I said, "Really? How do you know that?" Christopher said, "I can feel it. God told me today is the day I get to pitch." When we arrived at the ball field, I told the coach that God told Christopher he was pitching. The coach asked what we should do. I said that I don't usually make a practice of disagreeing with God. Our boys were up first, and they scored many runs the first inning. Coach looked at me and said, "Now is the time. Let's put him in now." Christopher started to run out to left field, his usual spot, but stopped dead in his tracks when he heard, "Massia, go warm up. You are the starting pitcher." He trotted out to the mound in his clean uniform, red shirt, sparkling white pants with red cap, and he was as proud as can be. The warm-up pitches were exactly as they were when Chris and I played catch in the backyard. The ball only traveled 7 or 8 feet in a big arc as it crashed to the ground, and the catcher had to run out and retrieve it. As a parent, it was painful. The first batter came up, and Christopher threw 4 balls, all resembling the warm-up pitches. The first man walked, as did the next 2 batters. All 12 pitches Christopher threw were the same. 7 or 8 feet from the mound, and the catcher had to run out and retrieve the ball. Bases loaded, the next batter comes to the plate. The catcher goes to the mound, as do all of the infielders, and God knows what they discussed. Everyone goes back to their position, and Chris proceeds to throw 3 more balls to the 4th batter. For the 4th pitch, he takes the mound. He pulls his red cap tight by his eyes and stares down his batter with the look of sheer determination. He begins to shake off imaginary signs from the catcher as he saw the big leaguers do. The boy only had 1 pitch. What was he doing? He sets, winds, and throws the ball. It travels straight and quickly just below the belt. The batter swings, misses, and the ump yells, "Strike 1!" The crowd goes wild, and Chris is beaming ear to ear. The next pitch is a ball that travels once again 7 or 8 feet from the mound, and the batter walks. At this point, the coach looks at me, and I nod my head. Coach goes to the mound and signals the left fielder to pitch, swats Chris on the butt, and sends him out to take the place of the left fielder. I was so concerned that I trotted out to the left field fence to check on Christopher. I asked, "You okay?" Now, this is the important part. Christopher said, "Daddy, I'm great." Now, in not one of my better parenting moments, I said, "Really? Why?" Christopher said, "Well, because I finally got to pitch in a real game, and did you see the strike? I blew it right by him." So looking back now, Christopher is a true champion, and he had a championship performance that day. So champions don't always resemble what we think they should look and even perform like. I ask that we all start this year allowing ourselves, our colleagues, and the students to have an opportunity to express as many opportunities as possible. Because when we protect ourselves and others from what we think may be a failure, it limits opportunities for success. And with this thought, I challenge you to make the most of the coming year. As John Fogerty sang in center field, "Put me in, coach. I'm ready to play today." I know that you are ready too. May God bless you. May you have a great year.
Thank you, Mr. President, for those inspiring words. And now we're at the arena of employee accomplishments. a league of their own, our very own Ms. Lynn Hanner.
Good morning. And before I go any further, I've had several people ask about these baseball AIDB shirts. We'll put out PR this afternoon on how you can get your Team AIDB shirt, okay? In the 1992 movie, A League of Their Own, Tom Hanks was the manager for the first women's baseball team. During the World War II, they were concerned that because all the men were going off to war, that baseball would go away. So they Philip Wrigley created the first all-women professional baseball league. And this team this league was in existence from 1943 to about 1954. And they have their own accomplishments. They are credited with saving baseball for the world. And this team, these accomplishments, these records, are all now noted in the Baseball Hall of Fame. So if you go to Cooperstown, New York, I believe, they have the Baseball Hall of Fame, and you can see all the accomplishments that women contributed to the sport of baseball. Today, we're going to celebrate the AIDB's Hall of Fame with all of and I'm really impressed. If you'll notice, the whole left side to my left is full of 10, 15, 20, and 25-year people. And we're going to recognize each group. But before I do that, I was equally impressed with the right side of the auditorium, because if you'll notice, that whole side is full of new employees. And I just want these new employees to stand. And let's recognize you. This is awesome. And guys, if you'll look across the room, you've got lots of people to look to for mentors. And we're excited about the new ideas you're bringing to the table. So we'll look forward to seeing you on the other side of the room in a few years and recognize you. There are 42 people celebrating 10 years of service to AIDB. And I'd like for you to stand. I think you start in the back. If you'll stand, we'd like to congratulate you. All of these names have been on the screen. They're in your program. And I hope that everybody will be presented with your certificate, and maybe in your department you'll have an ice cream party or something baseball related later in the week to celebrate. In the 15-year group, there are 19 of you celebrating your 15-year anniversary. If you'll stand, please. And not to be outdone, there are also 19 of you celebrating 20 years. So if you'll stand, please. And now for our 25-year group celebrating their silver anniversary. We would like for Dr. Massia and Amanda to join us at the front. And we're going to induct you into AIDB's 25-year Hall of Fame with a bowl. So if you would come forward. Rosemary Calhoun. Yay. Linda Ford. Jeffrey Green. Marvin James. Renee Jordan. Paul Millard. Come on down, Paul. Paul was noting to our guest speaker today that he is in charge of the sound. The sound guy is the principal at ASD. Thank you, Paul. James Minor, Jr. Sonia Moses. Yay, Sonia. Dr. Horace Patterson. Barbara Upton. Evelyn Waits. Mary Williams. Thank you. And let's give them one last hand, okay? 25 years. And my baseball quote for the day is, "You may hit and you may miss, but the love of the game always stays the same." And before I leave, we do have a word from our sponsor. On Thursday, September 3rd, we want all of AIDB to eat more chicken because it's going to be Spirit Night at the Chick-fil-A in Oxford. And part of the proceeds from Chick-fil-A's dinner that evening will go to AIDB. So we would like for you to go to Chick-fil-A for dinner that night and hand your receipt to the cashier and tell them that you'd like to donate your receipt back to AIDB, and they will donate some of the proceeds to us. And that's Thursday, September 3rd. Eat more chicken for AIDB. Thank you. I'll go ahead and introduce the next spot since our MC is out having his 25-year picture made. We want to invite you at all the ball games. You get the 7th inning stretch. And so I want you to stand, stretch, take a break, and I want you to join Miss Georgia Applin from the Alabama School for the Blind.
Yes.
And she is going to remember to remind us to take me out to the ball game. Miss Georgia. Everybody join Georgia for the next verse, okay?
Take me out to the ball game. Take me out to the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and cracker jacks. I don't care if I ever get back for this team. For the home team. If they don't win, it's a shame. For this 1, 2, 3 strikes are out at the old ball game. Thank you.
Guys, wasn't that wonderful? Let's give her another hand. Let's give her another hand. Wasn't that wonderful? Amazing. Hey, wonderful, wonderful. And now we give way to our Vice President of Instructional Program, introduction of the speaker, Vice President Vera Hendricks.
Good morning. Wasn't she great? Let's give her another hand. Welcome back. I want to congratulate and welcome all of our new players to the AIDB team on this side. And I also want to congratulate the players on this side who have reached milestones in their tenure here at AIDB. After hearing Georgia and hearing Dr. Massey's inspirational speech, the only thing I have to say, Coach, put me in. I'm ready to play. I have the honor of introducing our guest speaker, and I have heard Mr. Westmoreland, and you're in for a treat. Mackenzie Westmoreland is a producer, writer, actor, and co-founder of Historia Films in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. Directing plays is nothing new to Mackenzie, who has directed many off-Broadway productions in New York through the years. His directing credits include productions of Bash, Chicago, Freedom Summer, Evita, 1918, What I Missed in the 80s, and others. He is a native of Neely, Mississippi, and a graduate of Troy University, and has been twice awarded Best Director by the Mississippi Theater Association. 2 of his productions have been named first runner-up by the Southeastern Theater Conference. But since August 2009, Mackenzie has learned to direct without vision. He will tell us how he lost his sight to diabetes and found a way to continue doing the work that he loves. His most recent film directing credits include The Historian with William Sadler, The Question and the Hollow, and he wrote The Katrina Project, Hell in High Water. He was the featured speaker at the 2015 Helen Keller Lecture Series at Troy University. And we are pleased to welcome Mr. Mackenzie Westmoreland to the AIDB Convocation. I give you Mr. Westmoreland.
Thank you. Wow. I must have upset someone to make me go on after Georgia. How in the world do you follow that? Good morning. I really want to thank you for the opportunity to be with you today. And I say that for several reasons. First, it's always great to have a reason to come home to the South. It's very reassuring to be around people who truly understand the glory of collard greens and fried okra and sweet tea. They haven't quite figured that out in New York City yet. Secondly, I was excited to be here because I've never been to Talladega before. I've never been to AIDB before, and I always love going to new places. But mostly, I'm excited to be here because today is a celebration of a beginning, and I love beginnings. I find them thrilling, and I think you'll have that same amount of thrill and energy as you leave here today. After listening to Dr. Massey and having all these great students perform for you, I think you'll be ready to go out and look forward to this new year. I mean, for you guys, it's a new academic year. For the outstanding athletes and coaches that I met last night, it's the start of a new football season. But most importantly, today is the beginning of an opportunity for you to reach your maximum potential. Before I go any further, I think I need to tell you a little bit more about me and my story, and I think then you'll understand why I've come to my point of view. Now, from my bio, if you Google me, you can find out the stuff that, yes, I'm from a small rural community in South Mississippi. I did my undergrad work at Troy University, and for the past 17 years, I've lived and worked in New York City as a director and a writer and a producer. And all of that stuff is great, but that's not the real me. The part about me that you don't find in a bio and the part about me that you wouldn't find on the internet is the truly important part. I am a diabetic. I am totally blind. I have an amputated left leg, complete kidney failure, and I am only alive today due to dialysis 3 times a week. I am also completely grateful for every one of those conditions. I like to think that my journey really began 6 years ago, this month. It was August 12th of 2009, and I woke up expecting it to be like every other day, only when I woke up that morning, I was totally blind. I went to bed as a sighted person, and I woke up in darkness. As you can imagine, it was scary. To be honest with you, I freaked out. If there had been a video camera in my room recording that day, it probably would have looked like one of the old silent movies from the 20s, doing pratfalls as I tripped over my desk chair. I was trying to make my way out of my bedroom into the bathroom to wash my eyes and see if that would help. Instead, I found myself lost in my own closet, like a caged animal that I was clawing at the walls, trying to figure out what was happening. And I finally made it back to my bed, and I sat down on the edge of my bed, And that's when it truly began to get scary, because that's when all of the what ifs began to run through my mind. What if I truly am blind? What if this isn't just some sort of fluke and it doesn't go away? What if I can't work anymore? What if I can't pay my bills? What if I'm homeless? What if I can't take care of myself? What if, what if, what if? All those fears started settling in. And for that 15 minutes that I sat on the edge of my bed, I've never been more frightened in my life. And then just when it seemed the worst, I heard a whisper in the back of my head. It was a voice I actually recognized. It was the voice of my late mother. And I heard her whispering to me, God doesn't give us what we can't handle. I knew it was her because that was one of her favorite sayings. As a child, as a teenager, anytime anything difficult came along, she always replied, God doesn't give us what we can't handle. I had said it myself. But it wasn't until that moment that I truly understood it, what it really meant. God doesn't give us what we can't handle. So I stood up and I thought, okay, if God doesn't give us what we can't handle, that means that whatever this is, whatever this condition is, I can handle it. If it's not permanent, great. I've just learned something about myself. If it is permanent, great. It's a new challenge, and one that I know I will be able to handle. I knew that the first thing I would have to do is develop a plan. At that moment, I really wasn't sure even how to get out of my house. But I knew that I would have to figure out, I would have to discover a way of getting some medical attention and a way of taking care of myself. So I made a plan to leave my beloved New York City. I went back home to Mississippi. I knew I would need the support of my family. And, just tried to see if there was anything that medically could be done. There wasn't. We did surgery, tried to repair the retinas. I had diabetic retinopathy. That night when I slept, both of my retinas detached from my eye wall. It was completely unexpected. And the surgeon told me that at that point in time, there was nothing left that they could do, that I was going to be blind. I accepted that news and thought, okay, if this is what it is, then I will move forward. And so my next question is, how do I learn to live as a blind person? I found the Reach Center for the Blind in Tupelo, Mississippi, and I spent 7 months there. We used the structured discovery method, and I was very pleased to hear that you guys are about to offer that. For me, it was the perfect solution to my situation. After 7 months at the Reach Center of the Blind, I felt ready and enabled to step out and live life again. I returned to New York City. I was very excited. There was a traveling exhibit called Dialogue in the Dark. While I was at the Center for the Blind in Tupelo, I had gone to visit my brother in Atlanta. And the traveling exhibit was there in Atlanta at the time, and we went to see it. If you ever have a chance to see Dialogue in the Dark, I strongly suggest you do. It is an exhibit that allows the patrons to experience the world the way non-sighted people experience it. You literally walk through room to room in the dark using a guide cane and experiencing it through a world of sound and through, tactile feeling. All of the tour guides are visually impaired, and I thought, this is the perfect job for me now. As you can tell, I love to talk, and I wanted to show off my new skills with mobility. So I got to New York, I interviewed for the job, and I was their first hire. I was so excited. I got up to go to training. It was the second day of training. And when I woke up that morning, I could tell that something was wrong. I just did not feel right. And this was different than just a common cold or fatigue. I decided to call in, and I hailed a cab and took myself to the hospital and found out that I had an infection in the bones of my left foot. And the doctor said the recommendation is an amputation of the leg below the knee. I was stunned, but the best was yet to come. The doctor also said, before we do that amputation, we need to run a test to make sure that your heart can stand up to the surgery. That test will require that we inject a dye into your bloodstream, and when we do that, that dye is going to knock out your kidney function. We'll need to put a catheter in your chest, and you'll need to begin dialysis immediately. That was a bit much. I laid in my hospital bed that night trying to decide what I was going to do. You know, of course, I argued with the doctor and said that there has to be another way. And they said, well, we can try a course of antibiotics. It would take about 6 months. We'll have to remove all of the bones that are infected in your foot. You'll never walk again properly. And at the end of all of that, we may still have to amputate the leg, but it's your choice. As I laid in the hospital bed that evening, feeling very sorry for myself, and I am not ashamed to admit, allowing a few tears to fall, I kept thinking, this is more than I can handle. I heard the voice again, but this time I argued. This time I said, no, I can't handle it. But the voice got louder, and it kept repeating, God doesn't give us what we can't handle. And as it got louder and louder in my mind, I thought, you know what? If I believe this, if I truly believe this, then I have to allow it to be tested. And if this is my test, then I'll accept it. If God doesn't give us what we can handle, then I will handle this as well. The next morning, the nurse came in about 5 a.m. to take my vitals, and I told her, get the surgeon, tell him to sharpen the saw blades, he's got some cutting to do. I remember that the day of the surgery, after the surgery, after the amputation, they woke me up on the operating table and asked me, well, how do you feel? And I looked up and I said, foot loose and fancy free. The one thing I have learned of all the 5 senses that God gave us, the most important one is our sense of humor. We have to keep that. For me, life really began 6 years ago. I had lived for 40 years, and during that time, I had accomplished some great stuff. Things that I was very, very proud of. But it was easy. Life was fairly easy. There are things that for other people may have been difficult, but for me, they just weren't that big of a challenge. After 40 years of living that way, God determined that I needed a challenge. And for me, that is when my life really began. So when you look at me today with this gray in my hair, realize I'm only 6 years old. Today is a celebration of a beginning. Like me, today is a chance to start over. Today is a chance to learn how to face the challenges and to really live up to the idea that no matter what you're given, you can handle it. When Lynn told me that the theme this year is about building championship teams and really understand what a winner is, I had to give that a lot of thought. Like most people, if you had asked me what's a winner, I would have said it's a person who's victorious in a competition. And that's a truthful definition. But that's not really what a winner is. A winner is a person whose attitude is more important than the outcome of the event. It's the way we approach what we're doing that makes us a winner. It's not necessarily the outcome of it. And so, with this theme of baseball in mind, I thought about what it takes to really be a winner, to be that champion that you can be, to fulfill your potential. You know, science tells us that we only use 10% of our brain, and that if we could maximize the full potential of our brain, we could do great things. Sometimes I think we only use 10% of our soul, and if we could maximize 100% of our soul, imagine what we could do, what we could accomplish. And so every day I try to add 1 more percent into that to make my soul use a little bit more. And I challenge you to do the same thing this year and see where it takes you. With the theme of baseball in mind, let's step up to home plate. Now, in the game of baseball, everyone plays a position, and every position is important. But as another speaker was saying, it's not the individual, it's the team that makes a championship. So we all have to play our parts. It's also important to know who you're playing against. So, with that in mind, as we step up to home plate, realize that we're facing quite a powerful team. We have a pitcher that I like to call the fear of change. Our pitcher will be throwing out several balls for us to hit. Because we are afraid of what we don't know, because we can be afraid to change our ways of doing things, it could lead to us striking out. You know, the pitcher will throw a slow ball, and that's something you haven't experienced before. So you swing at it, you miss. You feel just like you're ready for the next one, and then the pitcher throws a curveball at you. You weren't ready for that, so you swing and you miss. And then the fastball comes, but this time you've caught on to it. So this time you swing and you hit. Now we have to get to first base. Getting to first base is all about a change in our attitudes, a change in the way we perceive things. When we have a positive attitude, we're ready to start the journey of becoming a winner. To get to first base, we have to stop thinking the way we've always thought in the past and be willing and open to think in a new way, to realize what we are capable of, and don't put limits on yourself or others around you. Get to second base, we actually have to physicalize or implement those mental changes that we had put at first base. You know, I don't think we could have a day where we talk about baseball that we don't have at least one quote from the great Yogi Berra. Yogi Berra once said, "Baseball is 90% mental, the other half is physical." That's true. Everything that we do mentally, we now have to put into a physical state of being. We have to implement those changes. To get to second base, you actually have to take those ideas, those new philosophies, those new ways of looking at something, and make them happen. When you do this, you're going to start seeing changes not only in yourself, you're going to start seeing changes in the people around you. Your students will recognize those changes. Your coworkers will recognize those changes. You know, and quoting again from Field of Dreams, if you build it, they will come. If you make those changes, you will not only affect yourself, you affect the people who are around you. To get to third base, it's all about collaboration. You know, as a filmmaker, people ask me, how do you make films as a blind person? Well, it's simple. I don't do it by myself. You know, I depend upon other people. I am a producer and a director, but I also have a director of photography. I have, you know, a first assistant director. I have camera operators. I have makeup and hairstylists. I have location scouts, wardrobe people. Oh, and let me just take a second and add this in, something I'm very proud of. But you probably will never read this on IMDb. For my last film, The Hollow, which we just finished shooting, our head of the wardrobe department was severely visually impaired. Now that is quite a feat. In a medium as visually powerful as film, the wardrobe person is truly responsible for the look of your characters. And to hire someone who has a visual impairment was a huge step. But I truly believed if this person believed in themselves and they brought their work and you know, visual people looked at it and said it was good, let's give this person a chance. So for any student out there who's listening to this today, never allow your career choices to be influenced by any of your personal challenges. Anything is possible if you set your mind to it. Helen Keller taught us that none of us are actually disabled. It's just that some of us are enabled to experience the world in a totally different way. I think that's very, very true. So when we get to third base and we're talking about collaboration, it's not just about your change, it's not just about the physical implementation of your new attitude, but it's about being there for your coworkers, helping them as they implement their changes. It's a team effort, and that's what makes a championship. And most importantly, when you get back to home base and you've scored, celebrate. Take a moment to really celebrate your accomplishments. There's nothing wrong with that. I do it all the time. To give you a bit of a personal story, while I was in the School for the Blind, I had made my first trip back to New York City, and I wanted to truly challenge myself. You know, I'd spent 5 months doing mobility training, and I wanted to see if I could put it to practical use back home in New York. And so I had picked a restaurant that I wanted to meet some friends at for dinner. And to get to this particular restaurant, I knew I was going to have to cross Houston Street at the corner of 6th Avenue. Now, I don't know how many of you are familiar with New York, or more specifically that particular intersection, but it is one of the busiest intersections in the entire city. And Houston Street is 6 lanes of heavy traffic. For me, crossing the streets in Tupelo, Mississippi, and crossing the streets in New York City, there's a little bit of a difference. But once again, as I was standing on that curb, ready to step off, I thought, God doesn't give me what I can't handle. And so, I'm going to trust this. I took my first step off the curb, stood there for a brief second, expecting any moment to be hit by a bus, but it didn't happen. And so I took another step, and another step. And before I knew it, I was in the median. Now, you have to wait in the median. You can't cross all 6 lanes at one time. There's just not enough time. So as I stood in the median and heard the traffic behind me, in front of me, to the side of me, I thought, what have I gotten myself into? What if I can't leave this corner? But I did. I stepped off again. I made it to the other side, and I was home free. And I paused for a moment. Now, my friends were literally just a little bit up the block waiting for me at the restaurant, and they could see me. And when I finally got to the restaurant, they asked me, "Why did you stop at the corner? You had made it all the way across." What they didn't know is I was doing my victory dance in my head. And I still do that today. If you see me on the street and I suddenly pause and there's no real reason, it's because I've just accomplished something and I'm doing my victory dance in my head. Do your own victory dance. You know, there's a lot to celebrate. When you are reaching your maximum potential, share that with other people. Let them know, because it inspires them to do the same thing. We have the opportunity this year to be the best that we can possibly be. Some days will be hard. Some days will be a struggle. Some days you will feel like you are in a slump and you can't get out of it. But trust that you can. You know, once again, God doesn't give us what we can't handle. So when those hard times come along, realize you're given that challenge not to bring you down, but to make yourself better, to use 100% of your mind and your soul. If you remember nothing else that I tell you, let these words from a one-legged blind man walk out of here with you today. God does not put a mountain in our path in order to block our way. God puts a mountain in our path so that we have an opportunity to stand on top of the world. And that is exactly how you've made me feel today, on top of the world. Thank you so much, and batter up. Okay.
That was awesome, wasn't it? You feel inspired? I do too. Yeah, clap.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's terrific. Mac, we have something for you, but you have to give me a minute to put my glasses on.
You sure?
I'm sorry.
You can borrow mine.
We have this frame print here, and there's Braille on the back of it that explains it, and I'll explain it, I'll describe it to everybody. There's a quote on the top of it. Well, first of all, it's framed in a brown frame with a light blue border, and it has the AIDB logo, which has red letters and blue, looks almost like a rooftop. And there's a quote, and I love this quote, and I love this man. The difference between the impossible and the possible lies in a person's determination. And that's from Tommy Lasorda. And on the bottom of the print, it has 3 of our beautiful children. And it says, in appreciation to Mackenzie Westmoreland for sharing your championship spirit with Alabama Institute for Deaf and Blind, Convocation 2015, August 3rd, 2015, Talladega, Alabama. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us today.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Lou Gehring grew up in New York City. He was the lone surviving child in his family, helping his mother earn a living for the family. He attended Columbia University signed with the New York Yankees in 1923. As a major league first baseman, he played 17 seasons as a Yankee. Despite playing in the shadow of the larger-than-life Babe Ruth for two-thirds of his career, Lou Gehrig was one of the highest run producers in baseball history. He set several major league records during his career, and he was known for his power as a hitter. He was a member of 6 World Series championship teams. He was elected to the Baseball Hall of Fame and was the first player in Major League history to have his uniform retired. But his streak ended in 1939 after he was diagnosed with ALS, a disorder now commonly referred to as Lou Gehrig disease. The disease forced him to retire at age 36 and was the cause of his death 2 years later. In spite of the life-changing challenges, this young man stood in Yankee Stadium and declared that he was the luckiest man on the face of the earth.
Today I consider myself the luckiest man on the face of the earth. I have been here at AIDB for several years, and since I've been here, I have never got anything but kindness and encouragement. Just look at this grand staff. Which of you wouldn't call it a highlight just to associate with any of you? Yeah, I'm lucky. Who wouldn't consider it an honor to walk where Dr. Joseph Johnson walked? To be a part of an institution that's over 157 years old? To associate yourself with all these amazing coworkers, administration, and leadership? Yeah, I'm lucky. And I'll close in saying that I may have been given a bad break at some point in my past, but I surely got a lot to live for now. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Our interpreters this morning, thank you, Ms. Perez and Ms. Milligan. Descriptive video, Mr. Ben Payne. I saw them tearing a building down, a team of men in my hometown. With a heave and a ho and a yes, yes yell, they swung a beam and a sidewalk fell. And I said to the foreman, are these men skilled? Like the ones you'd hire if you had to build. And he laughed and said, oh no indeed. The most common labor is all I need. For I can destroy in a day or two what takes a builder 10 years to do. So I thought to myself as I went on my way, which of these roles am I willing to play? Am I one who is tearing down as I carelessly make my way around? Or am I one who builds with care in order to make the world a little better because I was there? Put me in, coach. I want to play today. You're dismissed.